Hey, what's going on, everybody? I know I'm a day late, but I'm not $1 short. The Monday Night Raw reactions. And again, if you missed our programming reminder on the show, basically, in order for Kyle and I to keep our sanity, we're not going to do all the reacts, the volume of reacts that we were doing during the summer. But we're going to do select reacts. So I still have you covered for Raw. Kyle will do a few reacts during the week, and then whatever we see fit, we'll do reactions and, pay-per-view stuff like that. So, or the ones that we can watch free of charge. So I apologize for lack of coverage from over the weekend because there was a ton of wrestling, but a lot of events, a lot of stuff going on. But I did get an opportunity to watch Raw a day late just because I had an event that I attended yesterday with some friends, so that was fun. But, we got things we liked, things we didn't like, so let's get right to it. And I'll say this, for most of the year, I love watching Raw on Netflix for, you can skip the commercials and stuff, but that's only if you, watch it on, a slight delay. Today, because I have the ad plan, I had to sit through the commercials. And the last segment, when they were going through the final angle with the Vision and then Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and LA Knight, the segment cut off. So I had to actually go through the social channels to find out what happened, the closing angles. I'm like, man, that sucked. But some of the things we had to do. But let's talk about the final angle. And let's talk about the fact that Monday Night Raw, again, closed out. I guess technically there was a finish, but I think you have to go back to the Monday Night Raw I attended in Columbus to find the last time a Raw main event took place without any lick of interference. And that Raw that I'm referring to is the Raw I attended in Columbus back in late or mid-June. I think June 23rd. So we're going on a couple months now where you should expect some kind of interference. And at least this time they set the tone. It's going to happen early on. Get to see how I react to interesting drivers, by the way. But you kind of see how, they react. Early on, LA Knight jumps in, gets the interference, or not interference, but the backstage angle and all that stuff. Look, listen, and I'm conflicted about that take because, for the most part, the audiences that are in attendance, they do like it. The stars are over. Everybody's over. So, that's not necessarily the issue. Like, Triple H will probably come back and be like, well, the paying customers like what they see. Well, true, but this is a bad trend, right? It makes people not look forward to the main events where there's not going to be a definitive winner. That it's going to, it's just an angle. And, if you're continuously not delivering on main events, then what are we doing? So I think a lot of people are going to look at stuff like that. But that's really the big point of, overall scope. Now, let's talk about exactly what happened. I think because of the fact that you have this fatal four-way and it's clear, to me, the stories are odd. Because it's clear that Seth Rollins is going to retain. He's going to win this thing. So, that part's obvious. who's going to turn on who between the other three competitors. I love, we finally got to this point, but this is something I asked post WrestleMania, and we finally are getting it. Roman Reigns dropping knowledge on Jey Uso on how to act. And that was the first time, Kyle, my co-host, mentioned about, he brought up the possibility of Jey Uso turning heel. And I thought it was ridiculous. Because I'm like, he's a huge merchandise seller. He does this, he does that. But maybe, just maybe, he might be onto something, because maybe a crashed out Jey Uso, somebody who's just looking out for himself, maybe that is money. Maybe Jey Uso, the babyface, has plateaued. WWE and Triple H has determined that this Jey Uso has plateaued, and a heel run will be for the best. It's kind of a risky decision, because I do believe that there's still merch to be sold. And I don't believe that if you went with heel Jey Uso, that means he's winning the world title. I don't believe that that would be the case fully. Like, if he would have turned this weekend, how would that play out? Would he just crash out? Because you're looking at two guys who could possibly turn. You're looking at Jey Uso, you're looking at LA Knight. So, would either of those guys crash out against CM Punk? I mean, that's the obvious route. Whoever it is, it will be against CM Punk. But the overall story is like, you would think it's obvious, like CM Punk is saying, like, hey, us three, we should work together to, obviously Seth Rollins is going to have the numbers advantage from the outside. It's a fatal four-way, so it's a no disqualification. Obviously, he's going to have the advantage. And LA Knight and now Jey Uso said F all that. Okay. So this is pretty stupid. So, I mean, ego, but I don't know. A lot of it, too, is the fact that you're 99.9% sure that Seth Rollins is going to win on Saturday, or Sunday, so it's very hard to be honest, to get excited about this world title match. But that's the main feud on Raw. The other main feud on Raw, Taylor Swift got engaged today. It's the Iyo Sky love story. How about that? The Iyo Sky love story. Asuka did a great job, though. She put out a video over the weekend. I love the fact that Corey Graves referenced the video over the weekend. It's also ironic that when I'm actually doing a wrestling video, reacts on the way to the gym, that for once the lights are green. I'm usually stuck at that red light there for like 5 minutes. But Iyo Sky, or Asuka, put out that video explaining why the dynamics between her and Iyo Sky is important. Why Iyo Sky dismissing her relationship with Asuka is important. Like, why does Asuka care deeply about it? So it's actually pretty cool to see that play out. It's also pretty cool to see that probably one of the deepest divisions in WWE right now is the women's tag team division. Of course, you got Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Both of those two had a strong night, obviously. But then Kairi Sane and Asuka, Iyo Sky and Rhea Ripley. So you got a tag team division that is strong in star power, if they choose to go that route. But I do like the fact that even though Iyo Sky did establish, like, hey, I want to, I don't need, I want to do this on my own, she still helped out Rhea, when help was needed. She still reached out. So that part of it's good. And, you like to see that. And you just know Asuka's just going to turn up. At some point the switch is going to, hit. It's just going to turn up. So you do have that. All right, let me breeze through a couple other things, too. I don't like the fact that we don't have an opponent for Stephanie Vaquer. But it goes to... you can clearly see that the Wrestlepalooza thing, that news happened internally recently, because I think they're withholding a lot of big things that could happen at Clash. They're withholding it for Wrestlepalooza, for their ESPN debut. I think there, and we'll talk more about that dynamic on the main show this week, but I think because it's obvious Seth Rollins is going to retain, that maybe the next big match is Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for the world title. Which, now I'm thinking about it, that could be when you see the Jey Uso heel turn. You could see Jey Uso. I kind of like the idea of Jey Uso turning on Roman, because Roman's going to take the opportunity away. He's going to go for the title. And then there's other things too. But Stephanie Vaquer, not like, she hasn't wrestled on television in like over a month. And like, all right, we brought her up. She's big time. She's huge. Huge star. She has probably the most over move in wrestling. And she's only featured in backstage segments for 30 seconds a pop. This doesn't make sense. Just doesn't. Just doesn't cut it. I don't understand. I just don't. But you do have that. Finn Balor. Again, I don't have notes. I know this will be more organized. But Finn Balor is probably my favorite superstar in WWE right now, because of his mannerisms, his reactions, and all that stuff. Him laughing at the fact that Dom Mysterio, come on, could have turned a second ago. What are you doing? That Dom Mysterio is going to have a championship match against AJ Styles, and he's just laughing. Oh, man. It's good stuff there, but like I said, though, like, I think overall with WWE, with Raw, and then we'll talk more SmackDown on the main show, but I think they have decent storylines, but there's a lot of things that are predictable right now, so it makes things, it becomes almost a chore to watch the programming. But they have superstars that are way over right now, so that's kind of what you're tending to. Okay, did I miss anything? Oh, Becky and Nikki Bella, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. That was the first time I, like, popped my head. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, we got good stuff here. We got good stuff. That was fantastic. All around. I think they've had a standout feud. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the Vision is always going to be compared to the Bloodline, and it seems like we're trying to, at least early on, trying to use the same storylines that the Bloodline is, but the Bloodline is superiorly better at this stage than the Vision, so it's just a little tough right now. All right, we have arrived at the gym, so I'm going to go in. You'll see this video probably upload when I leave the gym, so there's that. But have a great day, and we'll catch up some other stuff, and then we have the show coming up Friday morning, so stay close.